Hola, buenos dias a todos. Hello, good morning again to everyone. This is Julio, your Spanish teacher for this Spanish language conversational course. Now, we're going to discuss about verbs or los verbos en español. Los verbos describe an action or a state of being. Verbs make up an important part of Spanish grammar for beginners. As it is said, verbs are the heart of the Spanish language. Every sentence has a verb. And here we have the common verbs that we can encounter in a daily Spanish conversation. We have pensar, to think, pensar, vivir, to live, vivir, ser, to be, ser. And by the way, this ser is the usual permanent ser or to be that is used to state if something is inherently natural or character of someone. While the other to be, which is estar, is usually used for temporary state. Okay? That's why on the previous parts, is in Spanish can be es or está because this sometimes varies. Now, we also have tener, which is to have, tener, querer, to want, querer, poder, to be able to, poder, gustar, to like, gustar, ayudar, to help, ayudar, ir, to go, ir. And if you notice, the above verbs are in their neutral state, which is called the infinitive form. You can tell when a verb is in its infinitive form because it will end in AR, ER, or IR. So let's go back and look at them. So pensar ends with AR, vivir ends with IR, ser ends with ER, tener ends with ER, querer ends with ER, poder ends with ER, gustar ends with AR, ayudar ends with AR, and ir ends with ER as it's already an original form of it. And just additional info, in Spanish verbs, there are two types of verb at the same time. We have regular and irregular. Regular verbs are those verbs that follow the usual pattern of conjugation. While the irregular verbs, these are the verbs that doesn't follow the pattern and has a unique way to conjugate it. That's why you really need to learn and memorize these irregular verbs individually. So later on, we'll discuss about that, so don't worry. So now, here, most sentences won't use verbs in their infinitive form. So instead, verbs are usually conjugated in the present, past, and future or other tenses. Spanish verb requires a lot of conjugation. It is not just 12 tenses, but it's more, as aside from knowing its tenses, past, present, future, you also need to learn about its person, first, second, third, its number, singular or plural, before you conjugate it accurately. So let's see some examples here. See if you can identify the verbs in each of the following sentences. So we underline the verb being used. The teacher puts the pencil on the table. La maestra pone el lápiz en la mesa. So puts is the verb being used, and the Spanish infinitive for this is poner, but because la maestra it's in third person singular, we must also conjugate the verb in order to agree with it. So, pone is the third person singular conjugation for this. Okay, la maestra pone el lápiz en la mesa. The same thing with the second example, the dog runs in the yard. Runs is the action word or the verb. Correr is the infinitive for the corre. And we can see that the dog is third person singular. So again, we must conjugate it to its third person singular form. Okay? That's why it ends up to be corre. El perro corre en el patio. Let's see other examples here. I am a student. Yo soy estudiante. So I am, that's first person. That's why the conjugation must also be a first person singular. And this is ser. This is the infinitive that we must use here. And it's first person singular conjugation. Present is soy. That's why it ends up to be yo soy estudiante. Also, second example, he eats an apple. So he is a third person singular. So eats must be conjugated to a third person singular. So come. Okay, él come una manzana. The same with the third person, it is we live in Spain. So because we, that's a first person plural or a mixed group of people, we must also conjugate the live verb to agree with the subject or the noun that does this action word. So vivir, its first person plural conjugation will be vivimos. Okay, nosotros vivimos en España. Last example, we have they study Spanish. So they is the third person plural. So this word study must conjugate to agree with the main verb, main noun or the subject, which is third person plural. So ellos estudian español. Okay? So I hope you get the concept how the verb works in its present tense and how it can be conjugated on its person and number. So don't worry. Again, later on the conjugation part, we will really able to get it. Now for our activities and homework. List 50 common verbs in Spanish and choose 10 from it with definition, then use it in a sentence. Example, we have teach, that's enseñar in Spanish, an act of impairing or imparting knowledge. The teacher is teaching the Bible, so we can see the teaching is in continuous form. So additional tip, replacing R with NDO usually makes verb continuous. So from enseñar, we just replace R with NDO to make it enseñando. So why we end up with el maestro está enseñando la Biblia. So enseñar was conjugated to its continuous form here. Okay? So you can also follow this kind of pattern as we progress on this course. Okay? So that's all. And just follow again the pattern. Then don't forget to record yourself speaking the sentences you have created 3 times. So muchas gracias. Nos vemos. Adiós.